Remember that so far, um, Brás Cubas has been, let's put it this way, talking trash about his book, saying that the serious people won't enjoy it because it will be too light, and frivolous people, in other words, light people, won't enjoy it either because it will be too polluted with digressions. Of course, this is something I'm telling you. He doesn't explicitly say that, but taking into consideration what is to come, we could say that yes, this is exactly what happens. A lot of serious people, people who would expect some philosophical conclusions and philosophical inquiries or sociological or whatever you may call it, find Machado de Assis too light. After all, there will be a love story. A lot of attention will be given to this love story, and also some of his comments are just jokes. On the other hand, people who enjoy a novel think that this narrator doesn't tell his story. He just comments on things, and then he says some things that are obscure, or even beside the point, and you want the reading to go on. We cannot forget the fact that Fernando Sabino, a a Brazilian writer, wrote a book called wrote, quote unquote, a book called Capitu Memórias Editadas. If I'm not wrong, that's what the book is called. And what is Capitu Memórias Editadas? Well, it's basically Dom Casmurro without the this narrator, without this personality. Well, let me tell you, I didn't have the courage to read Fernando Sabino's book, but I think if you lose the narrator of Dom Casmurro as well as Memórias Posthumous Memoirs, well, you lose the most interesting thing. So see, so in that sense, just in that sense, Fernando Sabino would be this frivolous person who wants the action, who wants the plot, but finds, this annoying narrator who is always making digressions and interrupting the narrative. Right? Well, that was so far. And then we have the last paragraph of To the Reader. But I still harbor hopes of winning the sympathies of that opinion, and the first remedy is to avoid drawn out, exhaustive prologues. Well, I'll read the definition for drawn out. Drawn out is lasting longer than necessary, prolonged in time, often causing boredom or frustration. For example, a drawn out disease is never just a test of the body, but of the soul. It's a nice sentence. A drawn out disease, so a disease that lasts a long time. Imagine cancer, of course. That's the first one that comes to mind. It's not just a test to the body, but mainly a test to the soul. The point is, how long will it will take until the person breaks, right? And what is incredible is that sometimes, and we see children facing cancer, they just don't break. Why? Because they have passed the test to the soul. Well, beside the point here, but the quote is pretty nice. So uh, that's why. Going back, but I still harbor, so I still have hopes of winning the sympathies of that opinion. Which opinion? The public opinion he has mentioned just before. And the first remedy is to avoid drawn out, exhaustive prologue. In other words, I won't write too much of what I'm writing here because this is the prologue, right, to the reader, because then my chances are higher that I will win the sympathies of the public. The best prologues have the fewest things or say them in an abrupt, obscure manner. Be advised if you don't know Memórias Póstumas, Posthumous Memoirs, or you don't know Dom Casmurro, for example, that the narrator will all the time think about not only digressions about other things, but about the act of reading. Right? So he will take as if he's take a step back, or if you prefer, a step up, and see his work as a writer. Right? So all the time he's going to say, "Well, this chapter is too short," or "I think I made a chapter like this and that," or "People say that in order to be a writer, you have to do this and that and that. So I will do this and that and that and that." Mm. Well, so here's a recipe for a good prologue, right? You have the fewest things, or you say them in abrupt, obscure manner. Mm. Of course, then your reader will be curious and want to read your book. Accordingly, I will refrain from relaying the extraordinary process that I employed in compose these memoirs, crafted here in the other world. Because, of course, something very interesting that we could ask Brás Cubas is exactly this. So, what is this? You are in heaven and then you got the permission from God to write your book, or are you a spirit and you are writing through a medium, right? Through a psychic? Oh, how's it possible? And then he's saying, and he will follow this course of action. He will not answer. He will not say anything about the other world. So keep in mind, when Machado de Assis, let's get a step up, right? Usually we just stay inside the fiction, but think about it. When Machado de Assis decided to make a narrator that is dead, he was not thinking at all about the possibilities of thinking about the other world, the afterlife, right? I don't know, like Dante in the Divine Comedy, right? The Divine Comedy is all about knowing what is there in the other world. No, he just wants a dead, a deceased author so that he can be completely free. This is extremely important. Remember that Memórias Póstumas was a breaking point in the career of Machado de Assis. He has always been an excellent writer. So if you read his books previous to uh, um, Memórias Póstumas, you will see that, well, he has four novels and a lot of short stories, some poems, and etc. If you analyze those books before, you see they're all great books, but it's still just a regular great author, right? Um, it seems, or not only it seems, but I'm completely sure that this book here, Memórias Póstumas, was a breakthrough, right? And the base, one of the bases for this breakthrough, is his complete freedom. He is free to say whatever he wants. He doesn't want to protect his own image. He doesn't want to protect the feeling of others. He doesn't have any kind of impediments for what he wants to say. Why? Because he's dead. And this is what Machado de Assis needed to write this great book. So nothing about the afterlife, but a guy in other words, a guy who really doesn't care. Right? This is a very important feature of Brás Cubas. He really doesn't care. He doesn't care about the consequences. He's dead. He doesn't care about his self image. He's dead. He doesn't care about the other people's feelings. He's dead. See? See, that's the point. Well, so he goes on to say, accordingly, I will refrain from relaying the extraordinary process that I employed in composing these memoirs, crafted here in the other world. It would be of interest, but tediously lengthy. It would be such a long description, right? And superfluous to one's understanding of the work. So the point is, You have to understand my work. It would be beside the point to understand my, in other words, you are here to understand my life. It would be beside the point to understand my death or me in the world of the dead. The work itself is all. It should please you, my fine reader. I paid for my, sorry, if it should please you. So, in other words, if you like it, my fine reader, I am paid for my labors. So it was worthwhile, in other words. If you should not please, if it should not please you, so in case it doesn't please you, for Brazilians, maybe this construction, right? If it should is a little bit different. It's a different usage for should. It's not the should you are used to, right? You're used to should as for advice, right? You should go there. That's not the point here. So when he says, if it should not please you, he means, if it doesn't please you, I will pay you with a flick of a finger and farewell. Well, in the originals, or the original, he uses the word piparote, right? What is a piparote? A piparote is when you do like this. So he is being completely childish, and you are going to see that all the time. This mixture of very high, deep philosophy with very childish, funny like things, right? So he's saying, well, if you like my book, thank you very much. I'll be very pleased. If you don't like it, I will pay you with a flick of a finger. Right? Well, let me just read some two things before we finish this video. First, the word superfluous, right? Superfluous, that is unnecessary, more than what is needed or sufficient. Example, the most superfluous things are often the most necessary. In flick of a finger, a quick light movement of the finger, often playful or dismissive, sometimes used figuratively to mean something done effortlessly or instantly. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel. Tell people about this project if you like the proposal, the idea, the purpose of this project, because the more feedback I get from you guys, the more I know that I can and I should spend my energy in this project. Also, consider contributing to this project. My Pix number is in the description of this video.